Well, welcome to the Institute of Managers and Leaders, Australia and New Zealand. My name is Sam Bell. I'm the Chief Executive of the Institute, and thank you so much for joining us for today's Development Day, our first Development Day of 2022. It seems like the year's just started and we're already into March, so it's fantastic. We've got, I believe, over 850 participants for today's Development Day. Terrific numbers, very well supported from our members and our corporate clients, and we certainly thank you for joining today. Look, we've listened to our members, we've listened to our corporate clients across Australia and New Zealand, and the key message they've been telling us is really the key challenges they're facing as organisations is this road to re-engagement. And the road to re-engagement has really come about from 2 years of COVID-19 malaise, the work from home, the hybrid work, the get back into the office, then go back home. It's been a real challenge for employers and managers and leaders out there to say, how do I engage my people again? How do I motivate my people? How do I get the best from my people so they don't leave and they go somewhere else? And that's been a real challenge that we've been seeing from what our members are saying, and certainly our corporate clients are desperate to find ways, techniques, moreover, really support their people to stay with the organisation, feel motivated, feel supported, and feel engaged in the vision, mission, and purpose of their organisation. And that's really what today's all about. So as I said, we've listened, we've put together 3 terrific sessions. We've got 3 of Australia and New Zealand's best facilitators with us, and we can't wait for today's Development Day. Just quickly, the Institute of Managers and Leaders is 81 years old. This year, we are Australia's largest membership organisation for professional managers and leaders. And it's our pleasure to host these sort of sessions. These sessions build on our philosophy as a training and professional development provider for management and leadership skills. They certainly will not change your life today, but what they'll do is give you some fantastic tips, tricks, and an action plan to work on to be able to take forward into the workplace. Everything we do is practical. We don't tick boxes, as we say here at the Institute. We don't work on theoretical things. It's all practical. It's practical skills that you can take back to the workplace. That reminds me that all of you have an action plan for today, and you should have downloaded that action plan. If you don't, please message us in the chat box and we can send it through to you straight away. But that action plan will have stop, start, and continue. So practical things that we want you to take away from each of today's sessions that you can quickly implement into your own day-to-day life to make your life as a manager and leader or an individual contributor in your organisation far more powerful. Like I said, today will not change your behaviour completely in terms of what we try to do from our leadership programs, but what it will do is really set you up with some of the core skills of management and leadership, particularly around, as I said, engagement and motivation of staff. If we look at some of the Institute's training and professional development activities, our professional workshops that we run are 90-minute virtual sessions. They will give you great skills to start to build on to change your behaviours and to lead your people in far better ways. And obviously our leadership programs, Essentials, our Foundations program and our Accelerate program will change behaviour over time, and they follow an adult learning methodology to change behaviours. And that's built into our philosophy as the Institute in terms of a training provider. And like I said, we don't tick boxes, we do things for a practical benefit and to make sure that the outcome for you, our members and our corporate clients is really, really positive and successful. So let's get on to the first session, because I know we're all waiting with bated breath for Jacqui to launch, and it's great to have Jacqui back on board. I know she's had a tricky few months, but her indomitable spirit is with us, and Jacqui, I know, can't wait to present on a really important topic. And we get this all the time, particularly from the managers and leaders who come in for our leadership programs, is about what role can I play to engage and motivate my people? What are the things that I can do in the workplace and around to really create a culture where people feel valued, feel supported, and so that I know that I'm going to retain my best people and really make me look good as a manager in my organisation. So Jacqui's with us today, and her clear learning outcome from what I can see, and certainly what I know our members and corporate clients would like to see, is what role do you play? What role do you play in your organisation in creating an engaged and motivated culture? And I think this is the age-old question. We all want to know more about how we can bring people with us and really create that wonderful environment. So, Jacqui, I will hand over to you, but firstly, I'll give you a little bit of an introduction. Is that okay? A little bit of a bio. Jacqui Perkins has been with us for many years. She's a highly skilled facilitator, speaker, and coach with many years of leadership experience in the corporate world. Jacqui's ability to connect and establish genuine relationships with the personnel of the company she represents and the participants in her programs have won her high praise, appreciation, and industry awards. Now, I just before coming in here looked at some feedback, Jacqui, of a foundations program you're running for us, and every single one of those participants had 10 out of 10. So, so you're coming in on very good form, Jacqui. And we're really looking forward to this first session. So over to you, Jacqui Perkins.
Thank you, Sam. I hope I'm going to live up to those high accolades. First of all, I just want to say welcome to each and every one of you out there. I know that particularly the people in Queensland and New South Wales, you have had a shitty time these last few weeks. Every time I look out of my window and I look at my swimming pool that now looks like a mud bath and see the devastation, I just am so aware of how people have suffered with losing homes, cars, lives, and so many things. And then I think that's on the back of what we've all been through with COVID over the last 2.5 to 3 years. And I just actually applaud you for being here today. And so I suppose in that context, when I look at the title of People Quit Bosses, Not Companies, I am almost tempted to say that's a pretty in-your-face, confrontational kind of statement. And as a leader or manager, you might be sitting right now saying, oh my God, what more do you want from me? It's just a miracle I get out of bed in the morning at the moment. And I actually couldn't agree with you more. So I absolutely acknowledge that companies do have a massive role in their retention of staff, their succession planning, their morale and culture, that they are able to build their strategies around building good team engagement, and all of those things are way over and above just the role of the leader, but very much part of a company strategy and culture that they build. And Shannon is very definitely going to be touching on that in his webinar in Workplace of the Future. So not to say that, you know, organizations don't play a huge role. Of course they do. But for the purpose of this session, we're going to just focus on me, myself, that if I'm a leader / manager, what are the things within my center of influence, within my control, that I possibly could be doing to get you know, a little bit more engagement, a better retention of the staff that I have, and keeping the people that I want to keep. So as we know, and we've mentioned this a few times now, we're entering our 3rd year of living in a VUCA environment. Probably you're sick to death of this statement by now. For those of you who just need a quick refresher, it stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Now, the reason I share this is because for those of you that are familiar with Dr. David Rock's work, he's a neuroscientist. If you haven't come across him, go Google Dr. David Rock scarf model, like a scarf that you wear around your neck, because he talks about the fact that these elements of volatility and uncertainty and ambiguity, they actually create and trigger threat responses in us. So we have these constant threat response going off, and these constant threat response actually lead to what we are witnessing within the workplace. So right now what we're seeing is that a recent Gallup report has reported that only 15% of employees globally are engaged and motivated, well, how can we be engaged and motivated when we don't know what the next month is going to bring or what the next 6 months is going to bring? I hear at the end of every year, oh, I just can't wait for next year. This is what we're going to plan. This is what we're going to do. And no sooner do we have a strategy in place than, oh, no, Omicron's come around the corner and this is what we're doing. Or, sorry, Ukraine's gone to war and we might all end up in the Third World War. And if you're in Queensland, oh, fantastic. We're all back in the office. We're going face to face. It's going to be amazing again. Oh, sorry, we're having floods. People can't get in. They're having to sort their homes out, etc., etc. So it's very difficult for people to be engaged and motivated when you've got this level of ambiguity and uncertainty going all the time. So, of course, then that leads into a sense of absolute disengagement and almost a limbo status, and that's going to turn to higher staff turnover rates because we've got people going, well, this is not working for me anymore, and hoping that maybe if I go work for another organization or if I have a different boss or I do something different, it will be better for me and it will give me more certainty or more predictability, or it will spark some creativity and some motivation in me again. So I think what we're seeing is very, very natural. It's just the question, I suppose, is what does that actually mean to me as a leader? What do I do about this as a leader? Now, I know that when I read these 2 bullet points, you know, I feel a little bit, you know, sort of sore in my heart about going, well, cheapers, this is a massive responsibility. So if we look at research indicating that managers can account for up to 70% of the variance in employee engagement, and that 1 or 2 employees have left a job to get away from their manager at some point in their career, then asking ourselves, well, what is it that I generally or genuinely can do to try and do my bit in all the stuff that's going on? What can I do to do my bit? And I think what's particularly challenging is that as leaders and managers, we're all burnt out as well. I was overhearing a corporate psychologist being interviewed on the radio the other day, and he said that the most burnt out sector of people are managers, particularly middle managers, because they're trying to keep themselves together, they're trying to keep themselves focused and motivated. Then they've got managers with these massive requests and KPIs and strategies that they're communicating to their middle managers. We still have to do this, we have to ensure we deliver on our outcomes, and they're having then to take that message to their people, and their people are going, I've had enough, I'm exhausted, I'm burnt out. So that sort of middle sphere of managers and leaders are probably the most exhausted of all, and yet here we're turning to you and saying, well, what are you going to do to retain your staff and to increase employee engagement? So when I say that, I don't say it lightly. I say it with deep compassion and understanding for what so many of you are having to deal with. And I want you to walk away from today going, well, what is something that is possible for me to do? What is something within my sphere of influence? What is something that I would actually enjoy to do, rather than walking away with another sense of burden and another to-do list and another thing that I have to do, because that's the last thing I'd like you to feel. So I'm just going to share this little extract from a blog of Tim Denning that I follow, and calls himself an Aussie blogger. He says, what is the best way to retain employees? It's not about ping pong tables, bonuses, pizza, fancy coffee machines, or even career development. It's about care. Be grateful for your employees because it's free. Now, the thing is, it may be free, but it takes time. It takes time. Now, I'm going to carry on chatting, but while I'm chatting, you'll notice there's a little question box in the toolbar, and I'm going to ask you to just put, what do you believe demonstrating care looks like? So if we're saying, if Tim Denning is saying, you know, that leaders need to demonstrate care, well, what does that actually look like? What are simple things that you believe, instead of a Band-Aid of a ping pong table or a barista machine, what is something you believe genuinely shows care? If you can put that into the question box, and when we've got a couple of answers, I'm going to get Sam to pop back on and share some of your insights with us. So as you're doing that, I'm going to continue to talk about what I mean by demonstrating care. So when we demonstrate care, we have to be able to see it and we have to be able to hear it. So there's no point in me feeling it and feeling deep compassion and deep empathy for someone, but I'm actually not saying it or doing anything. So I'm quickly going to share a little story here to help you understand what I'm talking about here. Many years ago, my husband was running a team for Panasonic in Durban, South Africa, and his admin manager came to him and she said, you know, George, I really think I deserve a high pay rise. I'm a single mom. I work long hours. I go above and beyond, and I don't think I'm being paid sufficiently. He said, I'm going to head office and I'm going to fight for the biggest pay rise for you possible. Came back to her and she'd already been informed by head office that she wasn't getting the pay rise, and she completely fell apart, and in my husband's typical fashion, he just sat there and stared at her. He didn't say anything, he just stared. So she eventually stood up and said, you're the most unempathetic, most lacking in compassion boss I've ever met, and stormed out. And when he came home, who got all the empathy? Who got all the care being demonstrated? I got it. I feel so awful for her. This is terrible. This should never have happened. And I said, but you don't need to be telling me. I said, pick up the phone and tell her that you fought hard. This is how you see it. You feel huge compassion and empathy. But you see, if we don't demonstrate it, if we don't say it, if we don't do it, we just feel it, how do our team actually know that we care? So, Sam, can we have a couple of answers from people on what their viewpoint is?
Thanks, Jacqui. There's a lot of answers here. I would say 80% of them are built around the notion of listening, active listening, listening to staff. There's also interest, compassion, and flexibility. There's asking about people's lives outside of work, taking time to check in with people, saying things like good morning, knowing their name, and remembering to congratulate people on special occasions.
Yes.
Demonstrating care, spending one-on-one time with staff, reaching out, get to know their families. We've said that. Respecting individuality, being there for your team and listening, open door policy. So, Jacqui, empathy, there's one for empathy, acknowledging that they might, sorry, they're all coming in quickly, time away from day-to-day work to fulfill KPI requirements, bringing in cake and treats. So there's a couple here for, social occasions, flexibility, having transparent conversations.
Lovely.
There's a lot. They're still coming in, Jacqui.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. And we can go back and we can read through the rest of the comments that are still coming in. But thank you so much for such wonderful suggestions, and very definitely that listening and being open to a different perspective and how do you see it and what's going on in your world, and being transparent about that and allowing for individuality and showing a genuine interest in a person as a whole person, not just in terms of what they bring to the workplace. So you've got some wonderful suggestions there, and I'm just going to go through 4 key points that I think help us to demonstrate care as a leader. And when you get your resources at the end, there's a little coaching worksheet that gives you an opportunity to explore these particular suggestions that I'm going to make. So the first thing that I want to suggest is that when we look at people working for us, is that they're not just working for an organization, but they are also working for you as a person. So, it's really thinking about, well, who are you as a leader? What do you stand for as a leader? What is your leadership brand? What can they consistently expect from you, so that people are working for people first. They're not working for a manager. They're not working for a leader. They're working for a person, and they want to work for someone that they know, and they want to work for someone that they trust. So if you're familiar with the Jacqui window, now the Jacqui window is something we talk about in Foundation of Intentional Leadership quite extensively, but we talk about having an open window, and you can have a big open window as a leader or a small open window. Now, if I've got a big open window, I share with you that this is what I believe, these are my values, these are my strengths, these are my particular areas that I'm not too good at. This is you know, what I stand for as a leader, and I also maybe share some of the vulnerable stuff. Now, I'm going to quickly give you a real life example that we've just had recently. So I was busy coaching a senior manager from a law firm who in the workshop had come across as very professional, very together, and she'd got some really scathing feedback in her report. And some of the feedback was she thinks she's better than us, she's derogatory when she gives us feedback, she feels she knows more than anybody else. And this particular woman was very taken aback and very upset by that feedback. She said, I don't think that at all. I don't think anyone is beneath me. When I had my one-on-one coaching with her, it came to light that she had actually just lost a baby, had to go into hospital and have surgery, and no one in her workplace knew that. They just knew she'd been off work. And when she came back to work, she was grieving and trying to hold it together, but she felt the professional thing to do was to put on this poker face and to work her hardest and still deliver all her KPIs and get her team to deliver all her KPIs. And if any of them had known that this is what she'd been going through, they would have seen her as a person first before a leader. And that strong, you know, shield of armor wasn't about her being judgmental or being harsh or, you know, not empathetic, but she was literally just trying to hold it together. And so we talked about how she could possibly communicate what had just happened with her team, and ask her team as to how they could possibly help her and where they could put their hand up and take on some of her workload until she could get back on top of things. So I think there's a huge value in us developing relationships where people go, oh, I know you as a person, and I trust you, and I like you, and I know what you stand for, and that you consistently stand for that. So let's just have a think about some of these questions. You know, what is your leadership brand? When people talk about you, are they quite confident what it is that you know, are willing to stand for, what they can expect from you? So I've written there, in this world of uncertainty, the leader can provide a solid anchor, a safety net, and even a beacon of light for those struggling with the ambiguity and chaos all around them. So I almost see that, you know, this leader is the person who is the buffer. This person is the one that's got your back. This is the person who may be reporting into the executive committee, but making sure his team gets credit or her team gets credit, but also making sure that if it's, you know, stuff is going down that maybe doesn't need to be reported back to the executive team, that we don't, he protects you from that. Or if there's really, you know, huge information going on at a senior level that could rock the boat and make people feel very uncertain, that maybe he or she just keeps that to himself for the moment until the right time, so that he's able to, or she's able to, provide this safe haven for his team, so that the team knows, wow, my manager actually has my back. They share my successes. They're the buffer when there's really bad storms ahead. And I know that finding someone like this is so difficult, that even if things are really tough right now in my company, that this is a leader that I know is going to actually take me through this difficult time and out the other side. So really thinking about, well, how can you demonstrate predictability to your team? How can you demonstrate consistency? What is it that you can do to make it easy for them to work with you? Just what they know they can always rely on getting from you. But at the same time, I really want to share this concept that it's a 50-50% partnership. So on the one hand, I'm going to stand here as the lead and go, this is what I stand for. This is what you can get from me. This is what you can expect from me. This is what I'm going to do for you. But at the same time, it's like a marriage that I also have expectations of you. So what are my expectations of you? What do I clearly need to actually be putting on the table around for this relationship to work? This is where I need to hold you to account. This is the stuff that is important, and I'm going to be making sure that it happens, and I'm going to be inflexible in these particular areas. Because by doing that, it actually means we care and that we're invested. So I'm going to come back to that. Before I get into that conversation in a little bit more discipline, or a little bit more detail, should I say, I'm going to come back to this first bullet point, which is about the WISE Compassion Leadership Matrix. Now, this is a fabulous, fabulous matrix. Again, this will be in your resources that come out to you, but you can Google it as well. And I love the little payoff line, having tough conversations in a human way. So I'm just going to go there, and we're going to talk about that, and then I'm going to go back to that previous slide. So when we look at this, it's how much compassion do I need to have versus wisdom, and getting the right balance here. So if I sit in this quadrant here, called caring avoidance, my empathy becomes a barrier to action. So I'm going to get you to put your suggestions into the question box, and we'll get Sam to share some of those suggestions that you make. If your leadership style happened to fall into that top quadrant where empathy has become a barrier to action, so there's a lot of compassion, but there's a bit of ignorance here, what do you think would be happening? What do you think is going on in a leader's role if you were demonstrating caring avoidance? So there's empathy, but it's becoming a barrier to action. So if you want to just plonk into the little question box, what kind of things would a leader be doing in this situation that you would say fit nicely into that caring avoidance box? Sam, have we got some suggestions there?
Hi, Jacqui. Yes, we do. They're coming through thick and fast. Okay, so empty words, no follow-up action, not making hard decisions, frustration at not getting a result, taking on tasks rather than delegating. A leader has lost focus of business requirements, listening to the issues but not acting on them, and not making people accountable for their action, not holding people accountable, towing company line, and there's no follow-up, no action, being too much of a friend and not a manager, counselling rather than discussing performance, avoiding responding to a direct email, not allocating work to someone if they have a situation they're dealing with, not managing performance issues, not following through, letting the team down because they're not making tough decisions.
Love it, love it, love it. Thank you, Sam. You guys are all over it. Absolutely. So yeah, I love the whole idea that maybe we don't actually give people the feedback that they need to hear because they're going through something tough, or not holding people to account, or feeling that I'm going to upset and ruffle people's feathers if I actually do hold them to account and have those tough conversations. So absolutely, you've nailed it on the head. Now, on that note, where we've let empathy become a barrier to action and we don't actually hold people to account, I'm just going to flip back to my previous slide. And I've just written here in the second bullet point, clear expectations and holding people to account clearly demonstrates that you as their leader are invested in them. So, you know, if you think about why on earth do we discipline our children? Why do we have tough conversations with them? We have tough conversations with them because we want them to grow up into decent human beings. And we know if we just let it sweep underneath the carpet, that we're going to raise human beings that cannot actually operate in society, cannot hold down a job, cannot actually contribute to communities. So I'm going to just share another little example I've come across just recently. I was asked by an organization to coach a very senior person within the organization. But before we started our coaching relationship, his manager said, could she please have some time with me? And she's an executive director at the organization. And she said to me, you know, he really needs to keep me in the loop. He really needs to keep me up to date with what he's doing. I don't just want the end result. I want to know his processes, his thinking. I need to know if he's 2 days away from delivering or 5 days away from delivering. I'm not being kept up to date with what's happening. And I said, have you ever had this conversation with him? And she said, no, I haven't. She said his predecessor did it automatically. So I said, well, maybe he's unaware that that's one of your expectations. Maybe he thinks you prefer him just to deliver it at the end when it's all done and dusted. He's not aware that it's creating anxiety and uncertainty for you when you're not sure what's going on. And she said, I never thought about it. I never thought about actually setting up a meeting and very clearly laying down expectations and laying down boundaries. So it's also that 50-50 relationship of this is what I'm going to do for you as your leader. This is what you can expect from me. But also it's a two-way street. This is the best way to work with me. These are my expectations from you. These are some non-negotiables. So just going back to our WISE compassion matrix, this is where we go to the exact opposite. So this is where, you know, it's all about results. And actually, I don't have time for people's concerns, interests, perspectives, what's going on in their world. I just actually need to deliver the results. And again, I had a very interesting example of this firsthand just last week. I was coaching a senior accountant who was managing a number of accountants in her team. And she had just done some 360 feedback. And she said what had come back consistently was that she's a doer. She gets results. Her team gets results, which is fantastic. But she said what she's noticed is that they all made comments about the fact that she doesn't listen to them, she doesn't ask for their input, she doesn't ask for their perspective. So I asked her the question, how do you see that playing out in the workplace? And she said, you know, I've noticed that now they're becoming sort of more subtle in the way they push back. So when I'm trying to get a decision across the line, they start to just come back with all different little objections or questions or queries. So something that should have just been simple and easy to get across the line has become more difficult and painstaking. And obviously it's their way of going, listen to us, take notice of us. So they're just pushing back in these little subtle ways because they're going, we want to be heard, we want to be understood. We also have a perspective here. So we don't want just that driving for results either. And obviously this little quadrant 3 is, you know, it should be just scrapped. That manager or leader shouldn't be in that position at all because they're not pushing for results and they don't have any interest or empathy. But this quadrant is where we really want to focus, where, you know, we're really able to do those tough conversations, but in a human way where we can show compassion, but also there's a degree of expectation around deliverables and around outcomes. So the next little, the third point that I wanted to share with you was to coach for success rather than improvement. Now, if we just go with the good old Alfredo Pareto's principle, the 80-20 principle, if we translate that loosely, then 20% of our team create 80% of our challenges, and conversely, 20% of our team contribute significantly to our productivity and our achievements. Now, I'm just going to throw something out there that you might find a little bit confrontational or not sit too easily with you, but it is something that I've never ever forgotten. A general manager that I worked with many, many years ago when I was managing a sales team came to me and said, Jacqui, you put so much time in your underperformers. And he said, you leave your performers just to get on with it because you go, let sleeping dogs lie, they're producing, let them get on with it. But he said, Those high performers are your 20%ers that are actually producing 80% of your results. He said, what if you had to just put a little bit more time, effort, and energy into them, so that all your energy is going into the underperformers, but going into your top performers, because these are our flight risks. These are the people that know that they can get really good roles elsewhere. These are the people that have the marketability to move on. So by investing in them and saying, I'm actually interested in your whole development, and even though you're a high-performing individual, I'm going to continue to invest in you to actually develop your skills even further. So I'm just going to suggest that instead of going into that trap of being reactive, where we just coaching when there's moments of crisis because someone is unable to do something, but rather proactively identifying those confident high performers and going, how could I actually stretch you? How could I really engage you so that you can be working on things that really, you know, blow your hair back, stuff that you're passionate about, stuff that you're really interested in, and it might even be, you know, secondments or projects or opportunities slightly different to what they're doing, just to get that level of excitement and energy up again, and also for them to feel, wow, you know, my manager is really invested in me as the whole person, not just actually hitting out these KPIs. So this always makes me think of an organization in South Africa by the name of Edgedale, and they've got a really good mantra, and the mantra is, we cannot provide you with lifetime employment, but we can provide you with lifetime employability. So meaning that when you work with us, the training and the development that you get from us sets you up for a lifetime of success. So starting to look at some of our teams and going, okay, where's the opportunity to really develop this person so they feel, wow, I'm being invested in not just to deliver on this job, but to actually make me more successful, more marketable in my own career, in my own right, not just for, you know, to service this company, but to actually do something that's important to me. So have a little think about who potentially people in your team could be that are your high performers that would love an opportunity to be proactively coached and being given opportunities to just stretch their wings and develop skills and knowledge sets that they might not have. Okay, now my fourth point is almost being a bit of a psychologist with the team, and I've called it, is the grass greener on the other side? So we've spoken about, you know, maybe we've got people sitting right now in organizations that are going, I'm feeling disheartened, I'm feeling demotivated, I'm feeling disengaged, something's got to change. What I've been finding with a lot of my clients is that the complaints from customers have gone through the roof. The complaints from staff members have increased significantly. And there seems to be this general aura of disgruntlement and concern and confusion and not sure what to do. And so there's this, you know, looking for something better, I'm not feeling comfortable. I need to look for something that's going to work for me. A lot of people have been questioning work-life balance and flexibility of hours, and since this whole last 3 years of pandemic. So people are being approached, there are opportunities out there, and they're really asking, is the grass actually greener on the other side? And what I'm just going to suggest here is that we sit down and actually have a counseling conversation with our staff. So really getting them to self-reflect that, well, all the stuff that's not working for you here, potentially why is it not working? And maybe, you know, putting it back at their doorstep a little bit and going, well, you know, if you're not comfortable with the workplace culture here, what are you currently doing to contribute to it? If you don't feel it's working, what do you think we could be doing differently? What conversations have you had with your manager about either the culture or your professional development? Or What steps have you put in place to actually increase your opportunities? Who have you spoken to? What learning have you taken on? Or even what have you done to raise your visibility and profile within the business? What would you gain by working elsewhere? Ask them. So if you went to a different organization, what do you believe you would achieve there for yourself that you wouldn't get here? And what would you be intending to contribute to this new organization? And what is stopping you from contributing that here? So, you know, sometimes we jump ship and then find that actually the challenges are pretty similar, and we maybe didn't give our current workplace that opportunity by having these conversations or by putting some of these mechanisms in place. So I'm going to ask you to tell me, what does this little statement mean to you? Wherever you go, there you are. Wherever you go, there you are. So Sam, it's our last little question that we're going to throw out there today. It's a Buddhist saying. If you've got a comment or a thought on what that means to you, wherever you go, there you are. What does that mean to you?
What you run from follows. The location is what you make it.
Lovely. Love it.
Make the most of the opportunities that are in front of you.
Love it.
Everything happens for a reason. Be present, pay attention. You need to be the change you want to see. You are the common denominator. Facilitating your own path. Your thoughts and thinking are always with you. Be present. It's all about perception. You can't get away from yourself. Deal with it. You can't run away with your problems. We've had that. Live in the present. It is where you live. Grow where you're planted. My dad always says, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be.
Yes.
You make your own home. Home is where your heart is. Your way of dealing with difficulties will follow you in any other organization. You are the change in your environment. It is what you make it. A change in scenery is not going to change who you are.
Love it.
And you take your behaviors and beliefs with you.
Love it. Thank you, Sam. Love it.
It's a very loose summary, Jacqui. Loose. There's a lot of them here. So.
Yes, we need to keep those, Sam. There's some amazing comments there that I want to copy and paste and steal. Really, really love it. Well done. Well done. That's so true. So I think what I'm going to end off before we just go to our final session of wrapping up is I'm going to encourage that if you've got people coming to you saying, I've been offered an opportunity elsewhere, I'm looking at handing in my resignation, that we don't have a conversation around negotiation of salary or negotiation of position or, you know, any of those types of conversations. I'm actually going to suggest that you have a conversation of almost putting on that counselor hat and asking those self-reflection questions. So if I have to sum that up, I think the way I would put it is don't tell and sell. I'm going to say that again. Don't tell and sell. Because the minute we go into that telling, you should stay here because if you remain with us, this will happen. This is how you're going to benefit, the telling and the selling. Because you yourself know when someone starts to tell and sell, all you want to do is to put your hands up and go, leave me alone and back off, and you almost want to stand in your position stronger and harder. So we want to ask those reflective questions. What is it that you think you will gain by going there? How could you be making that happen here? What have you done here to create that environment? What would you do there to create it? What's stopping you from bringing that here? So really just encouraging some self-reflective questions for them to take ownership of that decision rather than the telling and the selling that they shouldn't be looking to go. So if we have to wrap this up now, this is in your resources that's coming out to you. The 4 key things that we spoke about was really thinking about your leadership brand, what you stand for, so that people know beyond a shadow of a doubt this is who you are, this is what you stand for. So in my own business and any of my marketing collateral, I've got a little slogan that goes with you all the way. And what I mean by that is that I don't ever leave a job undone. So even if it means, you know, follow-up meetings after that or reworking something at the end of the project, I will never leave you high and dry, because that's what I stand for, is that I will take you from A all the way through to Z until you're 100% satisfied. And there have been many times I've wanted to walk out on a particular project because it has got so hairy and badly managed, and I have to remind myself of that brand. So, you know, is your brand obvious? Do people know what it is that you stand for, so that they have that certainty, they have that trust that when I deal with Sam, this is what I get? And then secondly, the expectations you have from your team. Have you very clearly gone, yes, I'm compassionate and understanding and empathetic. At the same time, we are running a business. We've got deliverables we have to achieve. We've got outcomes we have to achieve. So how can I support you and help you at the same time delivering what is expected of us, rather than that empathetic avoidance of those difficult conversations? And then thinking about how am I going to and who am I going to proactively coach? How can I look at those high performers and really proactively invest in their future, so that they see this is the place for me, this organization, this leader believes in me? And then going back to those self-reflection questions, rather than telling and selling, really getting them to self-reflect on what would they gain by leaving, but what could they gain by staying. So I'm going to hand over to Sam to go through the upcoming programs and opportunities that we have coming at IML. And once Sam has finished doing that, if you've got any questions that you do want to ask, you can pop them into the question box.
Thank you very much, Jacqui. I can't believe where that time's gone. It was super engaging. It felt like it went for 5 minutes, but it was fantastic. Excellent content, and certainly a huge amount to take away. Now, it was remiss of me at the beginning to say we've got an Ask Jacqui session right now. So we can ask Jacqui any questions you may have had throughout her presentation that you wanted to ask her. I'm already getting a lot of compliments across the screen here. 10 out of 10, Jacqui. So you've done it again. But please, if you've got some questions, please send them through, because we do have some time now for questions to go through. And I know there's a couple here already that have come through. Before we get to the questions, all of the resources that Jacqui's talked about today will be sent to all of you individually. So anyone who's registered for today will receive those resources by the end of the day. And I hope that will extend that learning that we talked about at the beginning. In terms of extending learning off today's development day, we've got 3 really important workshop sessions coming up. We'd love you to have a look at them, and if you're interested in joining, please join them. We've got your leadership vision, and this really ties in well actually with some of Jacqui's content from today about the leadership brand, about defining the leader you want to be. On the 24th of March, we've got a professional communication workshop on the 31st of March, and we've also got a high performing teams session on the 1st of April. So these workshops are 2 by 90-minute virtual sessions. So you join, they're 90 minutes, there's a break in between. We have groups of no more than 20. It's very interactive, it's very engaging. We ask that you bring yourself to these workshops, and that you're able to really be a part of it and learn from others in a small group learning environment. And I know Jacqui hosts a number of workshops for us throughout the year. I'd also like to say that all of these are built on our philosophy, and that's the philosophy I talked about at the beginning, which is our adult learning methodology. We do not tick boxes. Like I said, we focus really on practical outcomes, and I hope from today's discussion that Jacqui's presented, you've all got some practical outcomes to take away with you back into your workplace. In terms of something a little bit more from the workshops, we have our leadership programs coming up. We have both our essentials and our foundations programs, both very high quality leadership programs in the market. I believe the rating is 99.7%. from participants last year across all of our leadership programs. So please have a look if you are interested in doing something a little bit more fulfilling in terms of behavioural change and a longevity. For example, that foundations program runs over 12 weeks, and they're held and facilitated by people like Jacqui. So please reach out to the team and let us know if you've got any questions at all. You've got the email address there, info@managersandleaders.com.au. But we'd certainly welcome you to join our foundations and our essentials program. And anyone that does join off the back of a workshop, they can get that money refunded back as part of the program. And as part of joining our leadership programs, you also become a member of the Institute for 12 months, which gives you significant benefits in terms of joining the largest professional membership organisation for managers in Australia and New Zealand. So please have a look. Let us know if you've got any questions. And let's get on to some questions for Jacqui, because they are coming through thick and fast. I should have been concentrating on this, but let's start with how far, Jacqui, are you ready? This is the Ask Jacqui session. We've got 10 minutes. How far do you go with counselling/support? Is a separation sometimes the best option?
Yeah, I know. How long is a piece of string? And it's a question that comes up again and again and again. And the answer I'm going to give you is probably not definitive, probably more philosophical. The answer I generally give when I'm asked this question is that I think you need to be able to stand in front of a mirror and look at yourself and go, can I go hand on heart? I have done everything within my power to support this person, to understand their situation, to hear their perspective, to give them the tools, to give them the resources, and to enable them to do the best to their ability. And if at that point you believe hand on heart you've done that, then you have to draw a line in the sand and go, I am running a business that we are essentially have expectations from our clients, our customers to deliver, and that we are actually spending other people's money. So, you know, I often think about the fact, you know, whether it's not for profit or whether it's a commercial enterprise, it's somebody else's money that has been spent to deliver a service or deliver a product. And if we're not doing that, it's actually not right for us as managers to continue to pay someone for non-performance or non-delivery. So there has to be a middle ground here where I go, okay, I'm going to really try to understand, you know, is it a lack of knowledge? Is it a lack of skills? Is it a lack of motivation because they're in the wrong job? Have I been able to give them the tools and the resources and the coaching and the counseling that I can? And at some point I have to say, this is as far as I can take it. Now the responsibility for them to actually deliver is up to them. And I would then have to have that tough conversation of, these are the expectations. And if these expectations are not met, we are then going to have to go down a formal route. So yeah, the counseling is definitely important, but it cannot be done in the vein of, this is a never-ending cycle that you are entitled to for the rest of your life. It is, in this situation, I can see you having a hard time, I'm available and I'm helping you. And to a degree, I can do X amount, and let's agree what I can do. What I can't do, this is where you need to step up and get professional help. I've got an example right at the moment with a client where we have expended huge amounts of time with professional coaches and managers supporting and developing and helping around personal mental health issues. And it's reached the point where we've now made it a non-negotiable that they get professional help and that they're able to deliver on what's expected, or they need to consider looking at a role outside of that organization. So yeah, it's just really believing that you've had the integrity to do the best that you can do while still understanding that you're running a business and that you have to deliver outcomes, and that person has to make a choice as to whether they're able to deliver or whether they need to be making alternative decisions.
Thank you very much, Jacqui. Very well said. You've covered a couple of questions in that same vein from a number of people just looking at where that balance needs to lie in terms of, you know, being empathetic, but also having, you know, that difficult conversation and really expressing that. I think you've answered that very, very well. There's a couple of questions here from perhaps a different perspective. So it sounds like this is coming from an individual contributor in terms of, how do I get my leader to engage with me?
How do I get my leader to engage with me?
So as an individual contributor, if you're, you know, you're wanting to build the relationship actually with your manager.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to assume, without having more context, I'm going to assume that maybe this individual contributor is wanting more one-on-ones or more guidance or more direction and more communication from their leader. I always go back and refer to an acronym that I refer to as the with them factor, what's in it for me. And I often make the statement that most of us, unless we're Mother Teresa, look at every aspect of our life through the with them lens, what's in it for me. So instead of this individual contributor going to their manager and going, I need more leadership, I need more direction, I need more one-on-ones, but rather to put it into their language, their with them. So I understand that you as my leader really need to get the best outcomes from me. You need to make sure you're getting quality output. You need to make sure I'm engaged and motivated so that I'm able to deliver what I need to deliver. For me to do that, it would be really helpful if I could have some clear guidance around these areas. Or what would be really helpful for me is if I could have a one-on-one with you once a week where we talk around clear expectations. Or if we could have a discussion around the best way to communicate with you. Is it having a 10-minute session at the beginning of each morning? Or is the best way to give you a phone call? Or is it best to send you a text and ask you to phone me back, because I see that I often don't get response to my emails. So what is the best way for you and I to discuss how we're going to communicate and work with each other so I'm able to deliver what is important to you and to your team? So make it about them and their expectations and them getting the best out of you, rather than I'm not getting enough engagement, I'm not getting enough communication.
Thank you, Jacqui. Well answered. One from, I believe it looks like a sort of a middle manager. My staff often tell me they respect my leadership, but that they don't do the same for the higher ups, citing horrid culture and lack of care for employees. I feel helpless in this. What can we do to change staff perception in this, even if you may agree at times?
Yeah. I think, again, you know, that goes back to what we were talking about before about, you know, in middle management being that kind of buffer and what we choose to share and what we choose not to share to almost protect our team, particularly if the senior executive team is not demonstrating decisions or behaviors that we feel are congruent with what we believe is important. And I think, you know, there's a couple of things. It's whether that particular manager feels that they can be courageous and brave enough, again, to have the conversation, but again, to go from the perspective of the with them factor, so talking to their executive team. In fact, I've been in this exact same position myself. So if I use that as an example, I was managing a recruitment company and I had a team of 15 recruitment consultants reporting into me, and I had the two owners, the directors of the business, that worked part-time, were very seldom in the office. They were seen to be disengaged, uninterested in what was going on, and it sent a very bad message to the rest of the team. They could see that I was passionate and invested and cared about them, but they really had huge question marks around the two directors. And I actually had to be very, very brave and call for a meeting and say, you know, at the end of the day, this is your business. The way you choose to run it is entirely up to you. But I do know that you want this business to be successful, and I do know that the reputation that we have with our clients is really important, and I do know that you want to reach your financial revenue targets. And right now we are getting some disengagement and demotivation from the team because they feel that sometimes there isn't the same level of commitment and passion and ethos within the executive team. And I'm only sharing that because I know that it's important to you for this team to be successful. So can we talk about what are some things that you as an executive team could be doing to give that level of assurance to the people in my team, so that they can feel more comfortable and confident in your leadership. Now, you've got no control over that, but you've at least expressed it and you've said it. And, you know, then it's up to them whether they're going to run with it or they're not going to run with it. But you've done what's right by actually passing that message up the chain. And if they choose not to do anything with it, you've done what you can. And then I think going down the chain again, it's about, you know, going back to no organization is perfect. We're not all going to be fortunate enough to work in an organization where everyone has a great ethos, great values, and great behaviors. So right now, what you're getting from me as your leaders working for you, that's fantastic. And maybe not to expend energy. Right, talk about what you can control and what you can't control. Don't expend energy on something that is out of your control. If it's something that doesn't get in the way of you doing your job, get on and do your job, do the best that you can, and don't let that noise detract you or put your energy into something that's out of your sphere of influence. But trust me that I'm working on that side of things as much as I can.
Jacqui, thank you very much. I certainly appreciate it. I missed a lot of your answer because we had a technology fault here, so we've had to switch laptops quickly. So I'm not sure what you said at that last question, but I've got no doubt that it was wise and it was correct. Look, the feedback, Jacqui's 10 out of 10 again on today's session. Thank you so much for bringing your full self to today's session and really inspiring and engaging all of our participants today in the first session of Development Day. We certainly appreciate it, Jacqui. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sam, and thank you to all of you for such wonderful insights and such really well thought out comments throughout the presentation. Really appreciate it, and especially, as I say, in the light of everything we're facing with our floods and our COVID situation and all the disruption that everybody has been going through, to actually rock up, show up, put your best foot forward, and to be so engaged is really commendable to you, and I really, really appreciate it. So thank you, and enjoy the rest of the Development Day. You've got 2 really, really good webinars coming up, and thanks so much to you, Sam, and to IML for all the help you've given me in putting all of this together. Have a wonderful day, guys.
Thank you, Jacqui. We'll see you for session 2, everyone. Thank you.